What do you mean you haven't used the bathroom in 8 hours? Isaac Morrow couldn't believe what he'd just heard. He was standing in a dimly lit warehouse parking lot on the graveyard shift, wearing a navy blue uniform with a stitched-on name tag that read Tony. The wind cut through his jacket as the security guard beside him shrugged like it was nothing. Isaac had built his company from scratch, starting with 2 employees and a single contract guarding an office building in Tulsa. Now, a decade later, they had 9 locations across the state, handling everything from warehouses to retail plazas. But lately, customer service complaints had been going up, especially in the overnight shifts. One client even threatened to pull their contract, citing unprofessional guards and poor coverage. So Isaac did what he hadn't done in years. He stepped back into the field. Disguised with a trimmed beard, colored contacts, dyed hair, and a bit of weight loss that came naturally from stress, no one recognized him. Most of the newer guards had never met him, especially not at the Oklahoma City warehouse, where turnover was high and management rotated often. Tonight, he was paired with a guard named Rico. Tall, mid-30s, quiet. For the first hour, Rico didn't say much. They walked the perimeter, checked back gates, logged entries. Standard stuff. But it was when Rico winced and shifted his weight awkwardly near the loading dock that Isaac asked the question. "You good, man?" "Yeah," Rico muttered. "Just gotta pee like crazy." Isaac furrowed his brow. "So go." Rico gave him a look, like he was being naive. "We're not allowed to." Isaac stopped walking. "What?" "Yeah, the manager says if we leave the lot, even to use the bathroom, it's considered abandoning post. Got written up last month for it." Isaac blinked. "Wait, no bathroom breaks. For an entire shift. Not unless someone covers. But they never schedule floaters at night." Isaac didn't respond. He just kept walking. But his mind was spinning. They finished the shift around 6. Rico signed the logbook and sat in the break room, rubbing his lower back. Isaac watched him for a second, then followed. "You always on nights?" Isaac asked. "Yeah, for days a week. 5th one's a swing shift over at the Northside Retail Plaza." "Why not just say screw it and take your break?" Rico laughed bitterly. "I got a kid. Can't afford to lose this job." Isaac nodded slowly. "You got a manager here?" "Yeah, Curtis. He don't come in after 5. Leaves a note or calls in. District guy barely shows either. What's your deal anyway? You transferring here or something?" Isaac paused. "Just filling in. Trying out different posts." Rico leaned back. "Well, this one sucks. Cameras don't work half the time. Radio's cut out. And if something actually happens, good luck calling anyone." Before Isaac could ask more, a younger guy walked into the break room. Early 20s, yawning, sipping gas station coffee. "You Rico?" he asked. "Yeah." "Cool. I'm your relief." Rico stood, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the exit. Isaac followed him out. "Hey," Isaac said. "You're doing a hell of a job. I mean that." Rico looked at him, surprised. "Thanks, man. That's rare around here." Once Rico drove off, Isaac stayed in the lot, staring at the cracked asphalt and flickering lights. The security company he built was supposed to stand for reliability, professionalism, and respect. And here he was, watching a grown man limp to his car because he wasn't allowed to take a bathroom break. He clenched his jaw. This was just one location. He had 8 more to visit, and things were already worse than he thought. Isaac didn't sleep when he got back to the hotel. He sat on the edge of the bed, jacket still on, staring at the carpet while the hum of the heating unit buzzed in the background. His phone vibrated with emails scheduling reports, contract renewals, quarterly updates, but he ignored them. By the time the sun lit the beige curtains, he was already back in his car, driving toward the Northside Retail Plaza Rico had mentioned. He hadn't planned to visit 2 sites in 2 days, but something about the way Rico said it, like it was normal to rotate shifts and still pick up extra hours, kept gnawing at him. He parked in a corner of the shopping center lot, far from the storefronts, and pulled the uniform cap low over his forehead. The plaza was quiet, just a few trucks unloading pallets near the supermarket. A security booth sat at the edge of the lot, half covered in advertisements for local businesses. The windows were fogged. He knocked twice. The door creaked open, and a woman in her early 50s stepped out. Her uniform was neat, but her eyes were tired. "You the fill-in?" she asked. "Yeah. Tony," he said, keeping his voice easy. "You're the supervisor here?" "Shift lead." "Marlene." She glanced at his badge. "You were at the warehouse last night, right?" He nodded. She handed him a clipboard with a route map. "Just do the walking loop every hour on the hour. Key card checkpoints are marked in red. We don't get much trouble, but keep your radio on. Management likes to drop by unannounced." "Got it." She glanced over her shoulder, then lowered her voice. "Don't bother asking for a break. If you need one, wait till your shift's over. District manager's been threatening to dock hours if we're seen sitting too long." He didn't respond, just gave a short nod and started toward the south end of the plaza. The shift was quiet. Too quiet. Most of the storefronts were still closed, and the few employees who wandered in barely looked at him. He checked the card reader points, noted the flickering light above a liquor store entrance, and kept walking. At just after 10, he saw Marlene standing outside the booth, arguing with a man in a navy coat with a clipboard. Isaac slowed his pace, watching from behind a parked SUV. "I already covered it," Marlene said. "I did the last 2 patrols myself. We've been short-staffed since Alicia quit." The man pointed at the clipboard. "Doesn't matter. You didn't log them. No log, no proof." "I was doing the work," she snapped. "You think I'm just sitting in that booth playing cards?" "Watch your tone," he warned. "You're on thin ice already." Isaac stepped out from behind the SUV. "Everything okay?" he asked, keeping his tone neutral. The man turned sharply. "Who are you?" "Tony. New fill-in. Just finished a round." "Then keep moving. This doesn't concern you." Isaac's eyes shifted to Marlene. Her jaw was tight, arms folded. "I think it does," Isaac said. "If she's pulling double patrols, that affects the rest of the schedule." The man ignored him and turned back to Marlene. "You'll be getting a formal write-up. Again. One more and I'll recommend termination." She didn't answer, just took the clipboard, signed the bottom, and walked back into the booth. The man turned and walked toward a black sedan parked along the curb. Isaac memorized the license plate. He waited until the sedan pulled away before heading back to the booth. Marlene sat with her arms crossed, staring out the side window. "You okay?" Isaac asked. She didn't look at him. "That was Colin, district manager. He shows up once a week, sometimes less. Every time he's here, it's just to write someone up." "Why?" "Because that's how he manages. Fear. He won't hire more people, just shuffles the same names around between sites. I've been here 6 years. Never had a complaint from a tenant. But the second I miss a log entry, I'm a liability." Isaac leaned against the booth frame. "You ever talk to HR?" She laughed once, bitterly. "You think they return calls from night shift? I've sent emails. Never heard back. I've trained 20 guards in the last 2 years. Know how many stayed?" He didn't ask. She answered anyway. 3. She rubbed her temple, then looked at him for the first time. "You seem different. You actually listening or just killing time?" "I'm listening." She nodded once, then looked away. By the time the shift ended, Isaac had walked the full perimeter for more times. He saw Marlene handle a minor incident with a delivery truck blocking a fire lane. She stayed calm, professional, even when the driver got mouthy. She radioed it in, logged it, and moved on. She didn't complain again. But when she left at noon, her shoulders slumped as she walked to her car. No one was there to relieve her. She just covered a 6-hour solo shift on her feet. Isaac stayed behind another hour. No supervisor showed up. No backup arrived. He locked the booth and walked back to his car. Back at the hotel, he sat down and pulled out his laptop. Within an hour, he had a log of every write-up issued by Colin over the past 90 days. Nearly all of them were for incomplete logs or failure to maintain visual presence. There were no demerits for actual incidents, just paperwork infractions. He also saw that Colin had approved 5 different shift reductions in the last month, citing budget concerns. Meanwhile, the company had landed 2 new contracts in the same time frame. Isaac stared at the screen. Then he pulled out his phone and called the company's operations director. "Don't ask questions," he said. "I need everything we have on 2 people. Rico from the warehouse, last name, attendance, write-ups, pay rate. And Colin, full employment record. Can I ask why?" "You will. Just not yet. And keep it quiet." He hung up and leaned back. He'd built this company to protect people. But somewhere along the way, it had stopped protecting the ones who wore the uniform. He looked at the clock. He still had 7 sites to go. But first, he needed to have a face-to-face with someone who thought fear was a form of leadership. Isaac parked outside the Tulsa regional office just after 3 p.m. It was an unassuming brick building sandwiched between a tire shop and a nail salon. No company logo, no signage, just a small white sticker on the glass door with the company's initials. He sat in the car a moment longer, watching employees come and go. Most looked young, early 20s, business casual. No uniforms. None of them glanced toward the security cameras mounted above the entrance. Inside, a receptionist looked up from behind a desk stacked with unopened mail. Her name tag read, Kendra. "I have a meeting with Colin," Isaac said, adjusting his jacket collar. She gestured toward the hallway without asking his name. "Second door on the left. He's in, but he doesn't usually take unscheduled walk-ins." Isaac gave a neutral nod and walked back. The hallway had peeling paint in some spots, and the carpet was flattened from years of foot traffic. He paused at the second door and knocked twice. "Yeah," came the voice from inside. He opened the door and stepped in. Colin was seated behind a desk cluttered with forms, half-empty energy drinks, and a desktop monitor showing a paused spreadsheet. He didn't look up right away, scribbling something onto a clipboard. "You're Colin?" Isaac asked. "That's me," Colin said, finally glancing up. He had a short buzz cut and wore a company fleece over a wrinkled polo. "Tony. We met the other day at the plaza." Colin leaned back. "Right. The new guy. What are you doing here?" Isaac closed the door behind him and walked to the desk. He didn't sit. "I want to talk about how you run your district." Colin's brow furrowed. "Excuse me? Let's start with the write-ups. You've filed over 60 in the last 90 days. Not one of them tied to an incident. Just technicalities, missed log entries. Too much time in the booth. Not patrolling quickly enough." "That's all policy," Colin said. "If they don't follow it, they get written up. Simple." Isaac didn't blink. "And the bathroom restrictions?" Colin scoffed. "You're not serious." "I am. That rule's been in place since before I took over. If they leave their post, the client notices. Then I hear about it. I'm not about to lose contracts because someone can't hold it for a few hours." Isaac's stare hardened. "Rico held it for 8. Well, maybe Rico should drink less coffee." Silence filled the room. Isaac leaned over the desk slightly. "You've created a culture where people are afraid to take basic care of themselves. You don't visit your sites. You don't respond to calls. You don't even train your leads, just shuffle blame down the chain and call it discipline." Colin stood abruptly. Who the hell do you think you are? Isaac reached into his jacket and pulled out his ID. He laid it on the desk without a word. Colin's eyes dropped to the badge. His posture changed instantly. You're... No way, he muttered, stepping back. I've been working your sites for the past 4 nights. Warehouse, plaza. Next up is the riverfront property. You've been running this district like no one's watching. That ends now. Colin opened his mouth, but Isaac cut him off. You're done. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. HR will follow up about your severance eligibility. Isaac turned and opened the office door. Kendra looked up, startled as he stepped back into the hallway. Colin's no longer with the company, he said. Please notify building security. She nodded slowly, unsure, then picked up the phone. Isaac walked straight out of the building. His pulse was steady, his jaw set. He got in his car and called the operations director. Pull a list of every site Colin managed. I want new interim supervisors assigned by tomorrow. Prioritize the ones with high turnover. He hung up before there was a response. That evening, he arrived at the riverfront property, a high-end condo development still under construction. The guard shack was sleek, new, with tinted windows and a touchscreen log system. But no one was inside. He waited 5 minutes, then circled the perimeter. At the north edge of the lot, he spotted a figure sitting on the curb, tying their bootlace. Evening, Isaac called out. The guard looked up. She was no older than 25, slim build, tired eyes. Hey, she said, brushing gravel off her uniform. You the new guy? Tony. You, Leah. You're early. I was told to come by for a walkthrough. She stood and stretched. Sorry about the booth. The AC's busted. It's cooler out here. They started walking the fence line. The site was quiet, just the echo of distant hammering from a nearby building. Been doing this long? Isaac asked. 8 months. This site, anyway. Before that, I was on call for 3 different posts, floating wherever they needed bodies. You like it here? She hesitated. Better than most. No supervisor breathing down my neck. But I haven't had a raise since I started. Isaac noted that but didn't comment. You ever see management out here? She laughed dryly. Once. Guy in a blazer came by 2 months ago. Asked if I knew how to smile more while greeting visitors. I told him I worked nights. Haven't seen him since. They rounded the corner near the south gate. You feel safe out here alone? Isaac asked. I've called backup twice. Took over 30 minutes both times. One guy showed up already half asleep. You report that? She shrugged. What's the point? Isaac stopped walking. I'll make sure it's addressed. She looked at him, puzzled. You don't talk like the usual floaters. You military. No, he said. Just tired of hearing the same stories. They finished the loop, and she offered him a folding chair from her car. Only decent seat out here, she said. Company says the booth's too new to replace anything yet. After she left, Isaac stayed behind and reviewed the site's incident logs. Sparse. Incomplete. Most entries just marked all clear. No notes about equipment issues or delays in response. Either no one was reporting problems, or they'd stopped expecting anyone to read them. He typed up a digital note to HR requesting Leah's file be flagged for review, not disciplinary, but for promotion potential. She was sharp, calm, and quietly keeping the site functional with no support. Later that night, back at his hotel, Isaac opened a spreadsheet and started building a new site rotation plan. Each location would get bi-weekly visits from a regional supervisor. Shift leads would receive direct lines to operations, bypassing district managers entirely. And most importantly, he drafted a new policy. Mandatory rest breaks every 4 hours. No exceptions. Booths to be upgraded with climate control and basic seating where absent. Anonymous feedback lines for guards to report mistreatment or safety concerns. He saved the document and stared at the screen a long moment. The damage wasn't just operational. It was cultural. And culture, he knew, could only be rebuilt from the inside. Isaac stood quietly in the back of the conference room, arms crossed, eyes scanning the faces around the table. It was late Friday afternoon at the Tulsa headquarters, and the room was filled with site leads, operations staff, and 2 freshly reassigned interim district supervisors. No one had touched the coffee. The atmosphere was tense but focused. He didn't plan to speak first. He wanted to listen. Madeline, the interim overseeing the western sites, was mid-sentence. We completed walkthroughs of all 7 active night locations. 5 had either non-functioning radios or booths without adequate ventilation. 2 had guards working solo without relief for more than 8 hours. 1 site had no working emergency lighting. Isaac nodded. Were those reports previously logged? Yes, she said, but they were either marked low priority or not forwarded to facilities. There's no escalation protocol. Isaac turned to Darren, the second interim. And the personnel side? Darren tapped a folder in front of him. We interviewed every active guard who's been with the company more than 6 months. Over half had requested equipment replacements or shift adjustments within the last year. Almost none of those requests were acknowledged. Several didn't even know who their actual supervisor was. Murmurs crossed the table. Isaac stepped forward. Effective immediately, we're implementing a 4-tier communication chain. Every site lead reports directly to one of you. You report to operations. No more middlemen. No more unanswered messages. If something breaks, someone's accountable. Madeline raised a brow. What about the budget constraints Colin kept referencing? There aren't any, Isaac said. He inflated staffing costs to justify cutting hours. We reviewed the books this morning. There's no shortage. There's just been a failure to allocate responsibly. A few heads dropped. No one argued. He continued, we're not patching leaks anymore. We're rebuilding the pipes. I've approved a full audit of equipment inventory, and we're hiring a floating maintenance tech for each region. Night shifts will now have access to them through a direct dispatch line. Darren opened his mouth, hesitated, then asked, what about the backlog of complaints? There's a lot of people who've been waiting for answers. Isaac looked at him. Then we give them answers. He dismissed the group with clear directives. Finalize site reviews by Monday, identify the 3 most urgent facility needs per region, and pull personnel files for guards flagged by interim supervisors as high potential. They had a lot of work ahead, but for the first time in weeks, the path forward didn't look like damage control. It looked like a strategy. That night, Isaac returned to the Oklahoma City warehouse, this time unannounced and undisguised. He parked in the same spot as before and walked straight to the front gate. The night guard on duty was a young woman he didn't recognize. She looked up from her clipboard, startled. You're Isaac Morrow, he said, offering his hand. I'm here to talk to someone. Is Rico on shift tonight? She nodded slowly. He's out on perimeter. Should be back in 5. Isaac waited by the booth. When Rico returned, his eyes widened slightly. He stopped mid-step, then approached cautiously. Hey, he said. Didn't expect to see you again. Isaac gave a small nod. I owe you a conversation. And an apology. Rico looked confused. For what? For putting you in a position where you had to choose between your health and your job. Rico didn't respond at first. He looked off toward the warehouse, then back at Isaac. You're the owner, he said. I figured something was up. I started this company to do things the right way. Somewhere along the line, I let that slip. I trusted the wrong people to carry the values forward. Rico folded his arms. So what happens now? You're getting a relief partner. Starting next week, no more solo shifts over 6 hours. You'll rotate with a second guard. And the bathroom policy? Gone. Everyone gets scheduled breaks, no exceptions. Rico nodded slowly. That's good. Lot of folks needed to hear that. Isaac handed him a card. There's a number on the back. It's my direct line. You ever feel like something's off, you call me. Not a manager. Not a form. Me. Rico took the card, looked at it, then tucked it into his pocket. You going to every site like this? Already did, Isaac said. You were the start. Rico gave a short laugh. Glad I said something then. Thought I was just complaining. You weren't, Isaac said. You were telling the truth. That's not complaining. That's courage. He left the booth and crossed the lot, stopping briefly near the loading dock where he'd stood that first night. It looked the same flickering light, the same cracked pavement, but it felt different now. There was movement, change. The next morning, a quiet ceremony was held in the break room of the Northside Retail Plaza. Just a few people, Marlene, the interim supervisor, and 2 guards from the day shift. Isaac stood at the front holding a small plaque. This isn't a promotion, he said. It's a recognition. For 6 years, Marlene kept this post running without complaint, without credit, and often without support. That ends today. She's now our first officially appointed senior lead officer. It won't fix the hours she worked without backup. But it's a start. Marlene stepped forward, visibly surprised. She took the plaque with both hands, eyes darting to the others in the room. I didn't expect this, she said. I thought I was on the way out. You were, Isaac replied, but only because we weren't looking in the right direction. He pulled a folded document from his jacket. And starting next quarter, you'll help design the new training curriculum for incoming leads. You've done the job better than any manual we've written. She blinked, then nodded once. All right, let's make it better then. The days that followed weren't easy. Rebuilding trust never is. At the riverfront site, Leah received a surprise visit from a member of HR's regional team. Not to question her, but to hand-deliver her promotion letter. She was being moved into a full-time coordinator position for training and development, overseeing onboarding for new hires. She didn't celebrate. She just asked when she could start. The company posted an internal memo that Monday. It outlined the new rest policy, detailed the chain of command, and included a signed statement from Isaac himself. The final line read, "We protect communities. But first, we protect each other." The memo was pinned in every guard booth, slid under every office door, and sent digitally to every inbox. It didn't solve everything. Some sites still needed staffing. Some booths still needed repairs. But for the first time in months, guards were calling in not to complain but to ask how they could help train new hires. Several even volunteered to mentor floaters. One asked if there was a way to recommend equipment upgrades directly. Isaac didn't go back undercover. He didn't need to. The walls had come down. The stories were reaching him directly now, clear, unfiltered, honest. And that was the point. Not to spy, not to punish, but to see. And in seeing, to lead.